What is going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Podium Pushers podcast with Justin and Brandon. It is time to recap the Hungarian Grand Prix. In my opinion, one of the most underrated tracks on the calendar. It always provides action, and it has delivered once again in the year of our Lord 2025. A battle between the McLarens. Ferrari once again has a fight with Charles Leclerc and so much more. We're here to talk about all of that. Brandon, how you feeling?
Doing great. It was one heck of a race, and we said it last week, but Hungary always delivers bangers, and it did not disappoint this weekend.
Yeah, it's called Monaco without the barriers, and based on the racing that it provides, it has been nothing like Monaco the last couple of years, so maybe we need to find a new nickname for this track. We've got lots to talk about it, so let's jump right in with our one-sentence rundown. Mine is that Lando Norris finally proves he can be world championship material. We've seen Lando Norris win lots of races, and he's had some races that have even been standout races where he hasn't made mistakes, things have gone his way, he's had great drives. This, I think, has been the standout win of Lando Norris's career. He was not on the deferred strategy, doesn't have a great start, ends up being shuffled down to P5. That happens. You think not only is there no way he can win this race, there's no way he's going to finish in front of Oscar Piastri. Like, surely this is going to be another big swing in the championship. The fact that he made that strategy work, held off Oscar Piastri at the end, won that race, and cuts down that championship lead. I think this was Lando Norris's best drive of his career. And if he keeps having drives like this, then I think there's no reason why he can't end this season as world champion.
Yeah, it was fantastic from Lando. It was a very calculated, measured drive. I feel like Lando, when he lost positions on the first lap, the first corner, which he tends to do from time to time. We've talked about that plenty, but he didn't lose his cool. I mean, I feel like at times there has been moments where he's lost his cool and not kind of kept his head in the game, but this race he stayed calm, took a risk, and it paid off for him.
Yeah, and that's what we saw the whole time after he lost that track position. He didn't get stuck behind Fernando Alonso. He didn't get stuck behind George Russell. The one stop maybe ended up being the better strategy. Who knows if other teams did the one stop, what would have happened? But at the moment when he did it, it was not the preferred strategy for him to have to go long on those mediums and then do 40 laps on those hards. Like, we know Hungary is a track that isn't the easiest on tires. So at the time, that was not seen as the optimal strategy. He seemed collected on the radio. He sounded fine in all his messages. He got the job done. He delivered. It truly felt like a drive from a more mature Lando, and a Lando that is ready to fight for the title.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a fantastic drive from him.
Yeah, I mean, you could not be any further apart between the radio messages going on at Hungary last year with Lando Norris and the radio messages going on this year at Hungary with Lando Norris. Truly, as far apart as it gets. Glad to see that he maybe got a little bit of redemption at Hungary and ends up winning this race.
Yeah, it was wild. Definitely a big change from last year. That was a crazy race, and a positive one for Lando.
Yeah, change in the positive direction for sure. Charles Leclerc gave us the radio drama. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later. What is your one-sentence rundown from the Hungarian Grand Prix?
My one-sentence rundown is the battle between the McLarens continues. The last portion of the race was fantastic. Oscar was catching Lando, very nearly ran into him. But it was a great battle to watch, and just, this is what 2025 promised, was a fantastic battle for the Drivers' Championship. At the time, we didn't know if that was going to be between the McLarens, or the Red Bull was going to be there, or some of us thought Ferrari was going to be in there, but that's not the case. And so I'm just really happy to be able to watch an actual championship battle that is just thrilling. And yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I don't know which one of us predicted Charles Leclerc to win the world championship. I don't know why either one of us would do that. Yeah, it certainly was an incredible fight between them. And in my mind, like, we're at the summer break, there is less than double-digit points between these two drivers. Like, there is no way that this title fight doesn't come down to the wire. And that makes me so incredibly excited. Obviously, we have been to Circuit of the America races where both championships have been decided. So the fact that we get to go see a race where the championship is on the line, personally, that is incredible. But, ever since 2021, we haven't seen a title fight that has really come down with any drama as you get towards the end of the season. So the fact that we could have that this year is incredible. We're going into the summer break with this close of a championship fight. That is incredible. And as we've gone through the season, there hasn't really been a driver that has fully claimed the momentum. There's been times where we've said, surely Oscar Piastri is going to run away with this. And then Lando Norris rattles off 2 or 3 wins in a row and he's right back in it. Or surely Lando Norris is the more experienced driver. He's going to pull out. And then Oscar Piastri has, a better run of form than we've expected from him. So if this can continue for the rest of the year, we have got one heck of a championship fight on our hands.
Yeah, I'm beyond excited to see where the championship is when we get to watch Formula One in person in Austin at Circuit of the Americas. That will be incredible.
Yeah, we've been talking about the championship so much this episode. It's time for everyone's favorite segment, the weekly championship recap. As we have mentioned, Lando Norris finally cuts back into Oscar Piastri's lead. It is down to 9 points, single digits, barely more than a race win between these two drivers heading into the summer break. It is truly anyone's game. I don't think anyone has the overwhelming share of momentum right now. We were 10 centimeters away from both of these drivers being taken out of this race. They were that close on track. It is truly anyone's game as we go into the summer break.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, last weekend we saw Oscar with a fantastic overtake and a great race win in Belgium. And then this weekend we see Lando have an amazing drive and make honestly, a less preferred strategy work out for the win. I still think that the 2-stop was probably the better strategy overall, but Lando was just in a position where he could make the 1-stop work, and he had to work for that. So this was a fantastic drive from Lando, and nothing, to take away from Oscar's drive. It was a great drive from Oscar as well, but it's just, 6/10 between them. It was fantastic.
And I'm going to choose not to complain about this regulation set this episode because I've done so much of that. But, when Oscar Piastri is complaining about dirty air from 2.5 seconds back, surely we got to do something because there's no reason why he shouldn't have been able to catch up and pass Lando Norris on those fresher tires. But all credit to Lando, and I'm not going on a rant because I've done too much of that, and I'm going to have a good Monday, so I'm not going on a rant about that today. Someone who did go on some rants during the Hungarian Grand Prix, Charles Leclerc. Did Ferrari throw away Charles Leclerc's race? Had an amazing pole lap. That was the best qualifying of the year. I know we're recapping the race, but what a qualifying. The top 6, less than 2/10 apart. What a qualifying. Absolutely perfect. Loved watching it. Charles Leclerc ends up on top. None of us expect it. He keeps the lead from turn 1. And I know that McLaren's faster on race day. They have both the drivers up there. I'm like, surely at least Charles Leclerc's going to get P2, P3 at worst. Maybe he could win it. No chance. Doesn't even finish on the podium. They throw it away. Charles is angry with the team. Later says it was a car issue. There's like 33% chance in the back of my mind that there's no car issue. They just told Charles to be nice in his post-race interviews, and so he saved some face there. But he could have had car issues. Don't want to write that off either. Should Charles Leclerc have finished on the podium, at least?
I don't know. I mean, I think yes. But again, it was a tough race strategy-wise. And with Lando going long and kind of throwing that extra wrench in there, I'm not surprised that he finished P4 off the podium. It's unfortunate. I would have loved to see Ferrari podium with Charles, or even a Ferrari win. I really thought it was possible. Like 10 laps into the race, I was like, Charles, he has good pace. He has really good pace. And then it wasn't meant to be, unfortunately. It did seem to me, the way he dropped in pace towards the end of the race, that maybe there was a car issue. I saw online that maybe the chassis had an issue. Chassis was broken in some way. And that would have made sense to me with how much his pace dropped. But it was just unfortunate to see. And yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what's being said online, is that there was chassis damage, but we'll never truly know. And the way Charles was ranting on that radio, there's always going to be something in the back of my mind that's like, maybe they're just saying this. But based on the pace, yeah, it did look like he did have a car issue. It really was the worst case scenario for Charles, that Lewis was down in 12th, which we will talk about later, don't you worry. So Ferrari's on his own against the two McLarens. And they did exactly what they should have done to beat Charles. They split the strategies, kind of put Charles in a no-win situation. Did he cover off Oscar? Did he try to do a one-stop to go to Lando? And eventually he ended up not being able to do either. And that's just what happens when you're fighting on your own against inferior equipment to the McLarens. We've seen it happen to Max this year. Now it's happened to Charles. But yeah, I mean, I think he at least should have gotten a podium. No discredit to George Russell and Mercedes finding some pace in the cooler weather and reverting to an old spec of the car. Good for them. But I would have loved to see Charles Leclerc on the podium.
Yeah, me too. But Mercedes podium is never a bad thing. So
Yeah, never a bad thing to see George on the podium. There are some hilarious videos of George going around the internet of him just popping up on the podium this weekend. That was pretty funny. Let's talk about Charles Leclerc's teammate, Lewis Hamilton. What the heck is going on with Lewis Hamilton? Once again, eliminated in Q2, and his teammate, Charles Leclerc, obviously took pole position. Made up no ground during the race, finishes P12 exactly where he started, practically jumps out of the way at Max Verstappen at turn 4. I saw a really sad video that was showing them fighting at that same turn for P1 in 2019, and now they're finishing P9 and P12 in 2025. Lewis looks dejected. He sounds dejected, almost sounds broken. I think the summer break could not come soon enough for him. What do you think about Lewis Hamilton based off this weekend and what we've seen from him so far this year?
it's I mean, it's been an adjustment clearly for him, and I think maybe not. It's been much more difficult than he has expected. This Ferrari is probably the worst car that he's had in a long time. Um, I don't know. You could argue that statement with the Mercedes from the last few years, but he's certainly not used to this. And being in that new environment has seemed like it's been a really difficult thing for him. It's just really sad to hear him talk about, himself in the interviews. Specifically, I mean, post qualifying when he was saying that he was absolutely useless and that Ferrari needed to look for another driver, which is just a silly thing to say. I mean, Lawrence Barretto was interviewing him and it was like, obviously, that's not the case, right, Lewis? And he was just like, yeah, well, I mean, clearly I'm not very good. So it's just sad to see. And I really hope Lewis does find his mojo, his confidence back. And I mean, we've seen flashes of greatness even this season. Him winning the sprint in China, and he's had some good qualifyings, mostly bad qualifyings, but some good ones. And you know, I'm not necessarily a Lewis Hamilton fan, but I do enjoy the sport, and I love seeing great drivers be great. And Lewis is a great driver, so I hope we get back to that soon.
Yeah. At my core, I want to see Lewis Hamilton succeed with Ferrari, even though we're not Lewis Hamilton fans. It's just one of those things that should happen. You want the greatest driver with the greatest team to work out, and it's sad seeing how it hasn't worked out. I've seen things online of people saying, "Oh, I can't believe we just watched Lewis Hamilton's last race in Formula One." No chance that happens. Ferrari signed him to a 2-year contract. They're not dropping him over the summer break to hire back Carlos Sainz. Those are delusional people on TikTok. No shot that that happens. But I think 2026 is the make or break year for Lewis Hamilton. He is on a 2-year contract, so that's the last year of his contract. We've seen how difficult these ground effect cars were to drive for some of this old guard of drivers. Think of Sergio Perez having his worst years at Red Bull in the ground effect era. Daniel Ricciardo really struggling in the ground effect era. So you see, and now Lewis Hamilton just hasn't been the same driver in this era of cars. So when we go back to 2026, a regulation that is new, but more similar to some of the things that we've seen in the past, getting rid of this ground effect, I think we could see a bounce back from Lewis Hamilton. But if we don't see that, if he's still this far off Charles and doesn't regain that qualifying mojo, which was my biggest question going into the year, I'm going to still have it going into 2026, then I think it might be wraps on Lewis Hamilton's career and the Ferrari dream could truly be dead.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think Lewis is, if the rest of this year goes, similar and next year starts off going even more poor, then I definitely think we could see Lewis retire at the end of 2026. I don't think he's very interested in staying at Ferrari and continuing to drive slow cars for any longer than he has to. And so I definitely think we could see him retire. And the notion that he will get replaced this season is absolutely crazy. Ferrari spent hundreds of millions of dollars to bring him into the team. There's no way they cut him after 14 races or any amount of races.
Yeah, the look of disgust that was on your face when I brought that up. I don't know if I've ever seen that in an episode of the podcast. Yeah, there's no shot Lewis Hamilton gets dropped from Ferrari. It's just not happening. But it is funny that Carlos Sainz is still the last winner for Ferrari as we're halfway through the 2025 Formula One season. Let's go back to McLaren for 1 second before we recap our predictions. We've seen teammate battles that look happy from the outside turn sour on the inside really quick. And McLaren, they could be reaching that tipping point right now. Oscar pretty much looked set for the win after the first round of pit stops, but Lando pulls off the one stop, takes the victory from him. If you're Oscar Piastri, you could see that as Lando Norris getting the preferred strategy from McLaren, even though, as we've said, it didn't look like the preferred strategy in the moment. Another near collision after Oscar locks up on a dive bomb. That's the second time we've seen that this season. If he hits Lando Norris both of those times, I think this relationship is already sour. But in your mind, could we see this pairing turn sour at some point this season?
I think it's definitely possible. I do think that Lando and Oscar have had a tremendous amount of respect for each other, both on and off the track so far this season, and that's been really cool to watch. I don't think we often get to see that in teammate battles for the Drivers' Championship. So props to them for keeping it clean and having a great relationship. That's really awesome to see. However, I do think that, one bad collision could turn the relationship sour. And if I'm Oscar, I don't think that Lando is getting the preferred strategy. I don't think it's any favoritism towards one or the other from McLaren. Like you said, in the moment, the better strategy was probably the two-stop. And Lando was really just in a place where he could take the risk. And Oscar wasn't really in a place to take that risk. So the obvious decision was going to be able to put Oscar on the two-stop and split the strategy with Lando. And that ended up working out for Lando. And it's, again, there was like 6 tenths in between the two of them at the end of the race. So it's not like Oscar was miles off. So I think that's kind of just how the season is shaken out so far. And it's probably how it's going to continue to shake out. It's really just kind of a Oscar side of the garage versus Lando's side of the garage. How can they put together good qualifyings and make those moments count?
Yeah, and the commentators after the race were making a big deal about Oscar not saying anything on the radio. Oscar says like 3 words when he wins a Grand Prix by 40 seconds. So I'm not going to read into that too much. Right now, I think things are fine. Oscar still has the lead. It's close. Lando's feeling good with the momentum. I think things are fine. As you get towards the end of the year, say we've got 3 rounds left, we're heading to the last triple header, and there's like 7 points between these two drivers. I think they stop giving each other an inch, and that doesn't have anything to do with them being teammates. If they weren't in the same team, you'd see the same thing happening. So I don't foresee it happening anytime soon, but if we get towards the end of the season and it is this close, maybe even closer, then surely we see some fireworks between them before the year wraps up.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you saw the same thing in 2021 with Max and Lewis in the second half of the season after the summer break. That's kind of when we saw the most drama between the two of them. And, specifically, I think about Monza and Abu Dhabi. Those were both in the second half of the 2021 season. So it could get spicy towards the end. I sure hope it does.
Yeah, and we're gonna reach that point of the year where last year we saw Oscar Piastri go in that incredible run of form on these European tracks after the summer break. We'll see what that does to Lando Norris's mindset as he's trying to catch up to Oscar. So there's still some fireworks to go off in McLaren. I don't think this is going to be a calm championship battle to the end. Like, it is incredibly calm right now for there to only be 9 points. Like, that is crazy. I think it's because their teammates were not like appreciating that enough. That is insanely close, and it's been that way the whole year. Like, we are watching a single-digit championship fight unfold across an entire season of Formula One. That's insane. If that continues, we're definitely going to see some fireworks, and I cannot wait to see what happens between those drivers. Before we react to our predictions, we've got to put the Hungarian Grand Prix on the push and scale. I've given this race a 9 out of 10. Maybe just the finish is elevating it in my mind, but I do like the Hungaroring. As I've said many times, it's an underrated track. We saw different strategies. We saw a George Russell podium. We saw an incredible performance from Gabriel Bortoleto. Liam Lawson beats Max Verstappen. There was a lot of things happening in this race. I thought it was really good, really entertaining. I enjoyed it. 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I agree. It was a 9 out of 10. There's a lot of different strategy going on. We got to see a fantastic qualifying as well. And then, cars out of position. Fernando Alonso had an amazing race. Lance Stroll had a decent race as well, which is crazy to be saying those words. But yeah, it brought a lot to the table, and I really enjoyed watching it all the way up and down the field.
Yeah, shout out F1 TV for saying that Lance Stroll's average grid position this season is 20th, which surely that cannot be correct, but I don't remember who said that during qualifying. I was like, that stat has got to be wrong. But also, maybe the fans gave it an 8 out of 10. Going into this weekend, we were tied on our predictions. So let's see how we stand after the Hungarian Grand Prix going into the summer break. Driver of the weekend, I said Isaac Hadjar, which was incorrect. He makes Q3, but was out-qualified by his teammate, ends up scoring no points. Liam Lawson did score some points, so it wasn't a bad weekend from Isaac Hadjar, but when you get beat by your teammate like that, you're not getting driver of the weekend.
Yeah, and I said Max Verstappen, keeping it in the Red Bull family. And no, definitely not driver of the weekend for Max. Was expecting him to do a lot better here. Thought he was going to qualify a lot better. He did not, unfortunately. P9 does not get you a driver of the weekend.
Hey, I fully believe that Max Verstappen got every ounce out of that car. Apparently, the Red Bull was just horrible here, as displayed by a P9 from Max Verstappen and Lewis and Yuki Tsunoda once again getting eliminated in Q1. Back marker of the weekend, I said Charles Leclerc. Hear me out, okay? I want to say yes because after he qualified on pole, I was like, I'm not getting that point. He doesn't finish on the podium, has another falling out with his team, gets beat by George Russell, goes from P1 to P4, no podium. Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I agree with that one. I mean, it wasn't a bad race from Charles. He had good pace throughout the first third of the race. And then, poor strategy and maybe a car issue. Um, the back half of the race was definitely not his best. But, I mean, that qualifying lap, does that sound like the back marker of the weekend to you?
I know, but it doesn't have to be the worst driver of the week, and we've gone over this many times. It's just someone who's gonna have a bad, but because it's weekend, even though we weigh the race more, probably not. Even in our predictions, I was like, I don't think it's gonna be Charles. It's got to be Ferrari's fault, and it kind of was, but I don't think it was bad enough. I joked in the podcast that it was gonna be like a P7. He wasn't that bad, so fine. No point for me, even though it was closer than I thought it was gonna be after qualifying on Saturday.
Yeah. If it had gone any worse on Sunday, I think maybe I'd give you the point. But
Yeah, P5 or lower, I definitely would have taken it. P4 is still like, yeah, fine. Especially since he beat Lewis Hamilton by 8 spots. I agree. No point for me. Fine, fine. You're right. You're right.
if it makes you feel any better, I did not get a point for back marker of the weekend either. I chose Liam Lawson. Liam had an okay weekend, but I don't think it was the worst weekend. So he scored points, which is pretty good. So
Yeah, scored points, beat his teammate, so no back marker for him. Poll predictions, I said Lando Norris, which was incorrect.
And I said Oscar Piastri, which was also incorrect.
I went through this phase last year where I predicted Charles Leclerc to get pole what felt like 8 races in a row, and it was never right. And I have to remind myself to not do that after I just saw Charles Leclerc pole, that Ferrari's not good enough. Don't let it trick me. But no pole prediction points for us there. Our podium in P3, I said Lewis Hamilton, which could not have been any more incorrect.
And I said Max Verstappen, also very incorrect on that one.
In P2, I said Oscar Piastri, which was correct.
And in P2, I said Lando Norris, which was incorrect.
And in P1, I said Lando Norris, which was correct.
And I said Oscar Piastri in P1, which was incorrect.
Yeah. Missed P3 by a mile, but getting 2 points, I still feel good about it. Our one push-in prediction, I said that there would be a lap 1 incident. There wasn't. There was no contact, but Nico Hulkenberg, my savior, jumpstart, gets a penalty. Give me that point. Lock it in the bag. Lap 1 incident. Bang.
Absolutely. That definitely deserves a point. I was so sad when they first noted Gabriel Bortoleto for a potential jump start, but fortunately it was not him. It was Nico. That would have been really sad because he had a great weekend. But anyway, my one pushing prediction that it was Yuki was going to have his best finish in the Red Bull to date. That could not have been any further from the truth. So bad on me for trusting Yuki Tsunoda in the Red Bull.
Hey, we thought things were moving in the right direction. That all came crumbling down. So I don't think that's fully on you, but unfortunately incorrect. The fans at Daniel_Marsh_Carlos Sainz Q3 in points, which was incorrect. At Kobe_McCormick23, Lewis Hamilton takes pole and keeps P1. Incorrect. And at _Kai.9x, Lando and Oscar have another moment and Ferrari get a double podium. We were close to seeing Lando and Oscar come together, but even if that happened, we would not have seen a Ferrari double podium. We would have gotten to see Fernando Alonso on the podium, which would have been wild to see. After this weekend, I'm now leading 34-31. I have claimed my first lead of the season heading into the summer break, and I could not be more excited about it.
Yeah, I think back on the lead that I used to have, and man, what have I done to squander that? What a swing we have had so far this season, but it's still a tight battle. Still plenty of time for me to come back and get some redemption after last season.
Yeah, you were leading by 5 points at one point. That was an 8-point swing. I don't know what happened to you, but that's okay. You've got 10 races to come back. That is all we've got for the Hungarian Grand Prix. We're now looking at a sad, sad month with no Formula One, but we're not going anywhere. Before we get out of here, Brandon, what are your parting podium thoughts?
I'm excited for this summer break and being able to record episodes for you guys, put out more content. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Be excited about the summer break because we're going to be here all month long.
You might be the only person excited for the summer break. I'm glad we get to record stuff during the summer break, but I'm not excited about cars not being on track for a month. As always, thank you for watching and listening to another episode of the Podium Pushers podcast. It means the world that you let us talk to you about Formula One. Before you go, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all the things, and let us know what you want to see over the summer break. We'd love to make your dreams happen on this channel as well. We will see you next week for some kind of summer break content, but until then, have a great day and God bless.
See you.